What's going on, guys? What's going on, Chai Squad? What's going on? So, free agency did start. And Paul George will sign with the 76ers. Now, I knew this would happen. I knew that Sixers basically, and I knew that would happen. I knew that would happen. I knew that the Clippers wouldn't give him the money because Kawhi played 48 or 60 games. And I think, and here's the factor of that. Here's the factor of that. I really think Paul George is a level player where you where you have to have another star or build around him. And I feel like Kawhi didn't play that many games, and I think the Clippers didn't want to pay him that much money. That Paul the Clippers didn't want to pay Paul George that much money. So that's why I think Paul George signed a 4 year, $212 million deal is because you get to play with Embiid, you get to play with Terrence Maxey, you get to play with all of those guys. Philly has all of those guys, and they have Nick Nurse. They have Nick Nurse as a head coach. So I do think the East, we can say the East is kind of 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 weak in my opinion because the East is really easy to get out of, in my opinion. And I do think Paul George, he's going to be he's really a good NBA player. He showed when Paul George came into the league, we didn't know that he would be the Paul George that we see today. That we see today. I do think Paul George playing with Embiid, playing with Terrence Maxey, that's that's a that's good a good big free for Philly. A good big free for the Philadelphia Sixers. And I do think that's good for Paul George because now he gets to go and play with somebody that's going to be healthy and going to um, be there so Paul George won't have to do all the scoring, score 20 or 30 a night, like he was doing for the Clippers when Kawhi was out. And I think Philly did a really good job. I think Philly, that was the big pick to get Paul George because now you got Embiid, you got Terrence Maxey back on a ascension contract for 5 years. You got Embiid, you got Paul George. All this is, and you draft the rookie from Duke. All you need is more role players, and Philly could come out of the East. Philly could come out of the East. Philly could come out of the East. I do think I do think Philly could come out of the East for two reasons. One, one, they're trying to match up with the 76ers, they're trying to match up with the Boston Celtics, excuse me. They're trying to match up with the Boston Celtics. And I think every team is trying to match up with the Boston Celtics at this point. Because the Boston Celtics are the champions right now, are the NBA champions. But I do think Philly has a good team there. But every team is trying to match up with the Celtics. Every team is trying to match up with the Celtics. In other news, Klay Thompson will leave. Klay Thompson, it looks like he's going to leave. It looks like he's going to leave. It looks like he's going to leave the Warriors. The Warriors dynasty of Klay, Draymond, and Steph might be over. It might be over. It might be over. It might be over. That big free was a good big free. Was a good big free. And I think with Klay gave probably 10 or 12 or 13 years to the Golden State Warriors. I do think once Klay's career is done, once Klay Thompson's career is done, once he's done playing the NBA, he's going to get his jersey retired from the Warriors, because he's going to get his jersey retired from the Warriors because he has spent his whole career there. He was drafted there. I would say the Warriors would retire Klay's jersey if he leaves or resigns with the Warriors. But that big free Draymond Green and Steph was a very big was a very big was a bit was a very good big free. Like, they won 4 titles together. And I think if Golden State doesn't give him the money, then who are you going to pay Klay that money, or are you going to let him walk? Are you going to let him walk? And I think right now the teams that are definitely interested in Klay is the Dallas Mavericks, the Lakers, and the Magic. I can see him possibly going to the Dallas Mavericks because you got Luka, you got Kyrie. That team is coming off an NBA Finals loss to the Boston Celtics. So I can see Klay going there and creating another big free there, because who doesn't want to play with Luka and Kyrie? It's the same way, like, who doesn't want to play with Steph? Who doesn't want to play with LeBron James? The list just goes on and on. But I do think that determines Klay's decision. But the Magic did sign Pope from the Nuggets, so I definitely don't see Klay going to the Magic. I can only see him going to the Clippers or Dallas. Unless you want to go back home, then I get it. You want to play for the Clippers or the Lakers, but I would say he's probably going to sign with Dallas. Because there's a lot of pressure if you're playing for the Lakers because we all know the Lakers want to win a title, and there's a lot of pressure when you play for the Lakers, um, in my opinion. Um, Now, in other news, James Harden will stay with the Clippers. This is very interesting because back to my point, back to my point is that Paul George left, and I think either you had to get either Westbrook or James Harden at this point because Paul George left the team, and I definitely think you should. That's a good signing for the Clippers there, um, because now you got somebody for Kawhi, and had to get some. You had to resign um, James Harden if you were not going to pay Paul George that money. But James Harden has had a good career so far, and I think he fits best with the Clippers. Um, in other news, LeBron his did opt out his $51.4 million deal. I do think LeBron is taking more of a pay cut here because of you drafted Bronny and I think he's trying to take a pay cut to get more pieces. We know that Russell was re-signed. You still have Anthony Davis. You drafted Bronny. He's definitely at this point. I think LeBron at his career is definitely going to re-sign with the the Los is going to re-sign with the Los Angeles Lakers, even though he's taking a pay cut to get another star, like a Klay Thompson or like a role player, because the Lakers, they only are getting into the play-in tournament, and I can see that. I can see why for the Lakers, why you would get in the play-in tournament, but I can see why LeBron opted out of his 51.4 million player option, because you drafted Bronny with the 55th pick. You got the other rookie, and you got you're taking a pay cut to get another star, and the Lakers got JJ Redick. So I think LeBron is going to re-sign back with the Lakers, but he is taking a pay cut. Chris Paul has resigned. Chris Paul has signed with the San Antonio Spurs. Now, say that I did say that you have Victor Wembanyama. I think that's going to help Victor's. I think that's going to help Victor's development as a player, having Chris Paul there. And Chris Paul is going into his 20th season. So I definitely think that's going to help Victor's development. For having Chris Paul there to help Chris Paul to help Victor learn how to make the playoffs every year. So I would say that is going to be very, very interesting. But guys, so if you're new, and I hope all of you guys are safe out there and never give up your dreams and stay blessed, everybody.